Well, hello, folks. It's time to do another video before I get back to my other work. As usual, certain things have been frustrating me. Of course, I have no power to do anything about anything, but I keep hoping that more and more people are going to wake up, for lack of a better expression, and understand our predicament and through that understanding, focus their attention on problems that matter rather than all the nonsense that's thrown at us about Russia wanting to invade Europe in 2027 or things like that. In the meantime, we're ignoring literal genocide and we think that's cool. Forced famine, and somehow we're just shrugging our shoulders about that. I understand people don't want to look at certain things because it doesn't make them happy. It doesn't amuse them, and it doesn't make them feel good. And it doesn't make them feel good about themselves. I mean, I feel terrible sometimes at my lack of agency or ability or will to do more. But anyway, I understand that. I think the whole topic of collapse and overshoot and physics and biology and reality in general is fascinating and fun and exciting. And it's a good topic to discuss and explore and study. And it covers a lot of domains of interest, economics, politics, history, all kinds of domains in science. It's fascinating. Reality is amazing, and it's amazing that we're self aware creatures who have the kind of consciousness and the intellectual tools, not to mention technical tools, to satiate or satisfy or indulge that curiosity. It's a beautiful thing. And it's tragic when we all get hijacked emotionally, our attention and minds get hijacked emotionally just by tweaking these certain kinds of habits and receptors and elements of our nature that force us to react and believe and join and participate. Yesterday, I was on a crazy binge of reading and watching videos about Benito Mussolini and fascist Italy, leading up to World War II and the demise of Mussolini and all that. And noticing that we really haven't learned much, that the playbook is still being followed by new players today. Of course, they have better tools through which to manipulate and control the masses, social media being a major one. Not to say that social media or AI or LLMs or whatever are bad or, anything like that. It's just that they can be used and they're powerful tools. And they operate on the same psychological and psychosocial mechanisms that are inherent in human nature. So throughout time, going back to like the pre-Socratic period or whatever, or Babylon, I don't know, people were using language to manipulate people. And of course, big gods, religion, the ultimate hierarchy with the patriarchal big daddy god, and then the kings under that, and, the whole patriarchy and all that. So without going into colonialism ad nauseum and imperialism ad nauseum and all that kind of stuff, these mechanisms provide robust ways to manipulate human beings and get them to do what you want them to do if you're willing to take the risk to acquire power. And those who want to acquire power will do it any way they can. Everyone, I'm sure, many people start out altruistically thinking that they're going to do some good, do no harm kind of thing. But at some point, we realize that we need to compromise our moral and ethical sensibilities to accomplish something, and we do it because we know that power comes from control over resources, and today there's no greater resource than financial resources because we've financialized the global economy to a great degree. And if you're making money in your sleep or as you take a breath, you have more capability to exercise your will and do things. You can invest in companies, you can buy politicians, you can corrupt people, and you see it everywhere. The whole thing on Netflix about the King of Spain and his girlfriend, and going back to the Panama Papers and all that. I mean, there's so many examples, but you look at, Musk's mating habits and the whole Epstein kerfluffle and the Trump kind of lack of any kind of moral sense and so on, and how people put up with it because they're powerful people and we're not. It's so bizarre, but again, the idea that these mass movements, that the black shirts and the brown shirts couldn't come back is ridiculous. A lot of these, the fanatics, the fascists in Italy were just on the bandwagon, playing along. And at a certain point, they had to play along or they would lose things. And we're loss averse. We don't want to lose things. This is another reason why we don't want to pay attention to Overshoot, because it makes us feel like we're going to lose things. And we're too busy working really, really hard to get things. We don't want to contemplate losing things. It's too much. The idea of having enough is just uncomfortable. Enough, or these, what do you call it? High touch ideas about happiness coming from relationships and things like that. How silly. We all know that it's easier to have relationships if we have a nice car or whatever, a good job. You can go into the sociology of all that and the psychology of all that, but that's not what I'm here for today. I just want to say that, one of the reasons why I probably survived as long as I have is a certain amount of vanity. When I was younger, I went to the gym and played sports and did Tai Chi and Aikido and stuff. And I did it because I enjoyed it, because it was good for me. And I played badminton and squash and stuff like that. It was a good social occasion. And also because of vanity. I wanted to look good for the girls. And I wanted to look strong for the boys so that, I could assert myself and be attractive and popular and so on. I see, we don't outgrow that, many of us. We're still vain till the day we die, indulging in this, that, and the other thing that we know is not good for us at a particular stage in life. How many mistresses can I juggle while I'm the King of Spain and have all of those duties and responsibility and all of that political capital and so on. But we tend to do it anyway. And I notice in small ways in all the expat communities that I've been a part of over the course of 35 years, is, a lot of people, clustering together out of vanity, because an expat community understands why you're cool and can understand how important and beautiful and you are, because they're closer to your culture. And getting that across to the natives is just more difficult. I think one of the most important survival skills when you move to a foreign country is to learn the language. But it's easier said than done. I speak other languages. I'm finding Portuguese to be particularly challenging. I don't know if it's my age or the way I use my time these days or what it is, but I'm not learning as quickly as I would like. It doesn't seem like it anyway. I seem to have picked up Japanese a lot quicker. And it's just strange how that is. But it is important to connect with your local community, with the people in the place where you live, as opposed to just the expats. But we all still have something to sell, and a lot of times what we're selling is ourselves because we're vain. And that's okay. I think vanity to a certain degree is extremely healthy. You need good self esteem, and different people get their self esteem in different ways. Some people can do it more solo, more solitarily. They feel or understand their own self worth from a deep place. Other people need a lot more attention, and some people really must be at the center of things to feel alive and important and loved and all that kind of thing. And that's okay. I'm not going to criticize anybody for being vain, especially when I'm vain as well. So, but it is one of the factors I think that prevents us from looking at reality sometimes, because we might have to face the fact that we're getting older, that we're not that we're running out of steam in certain ways, or we might have to accept the fact that we're going to die, our mortality or whatever, or we might have to realize that we're not all that anymore. We get nostalgic, we look back and we say, whoa, things were like that back then, and now it's like, what's wrong? Anyway, also in terms of the overall predicament of our species at the moment, of global culture in that basket, nationalism, jingoism, all of this kind of thing is a kind of vanity. And it's a vanity that we're conditioned to have. Everybody has it. It's kind of a natural thing. Proud to be French, proud to be a Botswanan, proud to be Chinese, whatever. And, that's pretty normal. That's the way things are. But at the scale of the global economy now, that kind of human supremacy, that kind of vanity, that kind of unrealistic self impression is not very good or healthy. It accelerates collapse and overshoot and basically the demise of our species. But obviously, most people don't care about that or want to talk about that because it's not attractive. It doesn't make you feel good, and you're not going to be able to buy a new car or take a trip to Czechoslovakia or the Czech Republic, you know, thinking about such things. You got to get busy. You got to be the man and get some cashish together and make your moves, and then you're cool. And but as many people have pointed out that I follow, and for years and years, from the sages and whatnot, the more we want, the more we want. Our wants are never satiated. There's no upper limit to it. As long as we can get more, we're going to get more and want more. Unless we train ourselves to be frugal and careful about our consumption and way of life and so on. In our world today, there's no upper limit. The more you have, the more you need to have. And we're trained to feel that way. The endocrine system and brain hormones and all that kind of thing. You can study all of that. And there are so many ways to look at the phenomenon of our wants versus our needs from so many domains that it's exhaustive, but it's exciting and interesting. Reality is fun. You can make jokes about it. You can have lively conversations about it. Your self-esteem can be boosted by having a conversation with nice people about it. You don't have to debate things ideologically, win arguments. You can just talk about reality. What do we know from an epistemic perspective? How do we know it? How much do we really know, and so on, epistemic humility. And you can just have a conversation and learn from each other, and it can be really, really fun. I truly believe that. So anyway, in this area of interest that I'm fascinated with, which is overshoot, ecological collapse, civilizational collapse, there are a few good people, and I've mentioned Eric Michaels before in other videos, but I want to mention him again and reiterate why I like his work. First of all, I think he's a humble and sincere individual. He's friendly. He seems decent. He doesn't preach too heavily. He doesn't seem as evangelical as other people. In this, space that isn't very popular. I mean, you read something on Substack of Eric's, he's got 13 likes, 3 comments, kind of like me. And he's been around for a long time. He's been blogging at Blogspot for a long, long time. And a lot of the people that he's been learning from are experts in their field. They've been professionals in their domains for decades, working in the scientific community and so on. And if they're economists, whatever their domain is, they're professionals. They've been around for a long time. They've thought things through. They've been publishing since the 70s. So these are good resources. This is truthful stuff, factual stuff. And that's what he refers to, and it's obvious that's what he's learned from. And then he became interested in blogging about it. And people who have been interested in limits to growth for decades, like I have, you learn slowly over a period of time, and you focus on this, that, and the other thing for a while. And then you shift to something else, because you can't take it all in holistically. Our brains just aren't evolved for that. We pay attention to certain things, and then we create networks in our thinking, nodes of understanding, and we kind of mesh that all together. I'm not a neuroscientist, as you know, but I can't make those claims. People like Sam Harris, make that claim, and he hasn't published in that field much at all. But he's a podcaster, and he's written some books. So, but there are better sources than these pop culture intellectual influencers out there. And once you engage with them, it's pretty exciting, pretty fun stuff. And over time, you broaden your understanding of things, and you understand that all of these things are interconnected. So the historical perspectives, the various cultural perspectives, the various political, philosophic perspectives. Yes, you can have a socialist and a Marxist and a communist and a democratic and a libertarian perspective on climate and the environment and all kinds of other topics, obviously. There are many schools of economics that you can look at and compare and contrast. And there's all kinds of things out there going on. And these perspectives are important. And most importantly, people have to do something. So you can't just say, oh, well, we're not a case species. We're not Hunza. We're not hunter-gatherers. So we're doomed or whatever. We're not doomed or who knows. I'm stupid. How could I? Some writers are like that. And it's like, okay, fine. Through many lines of evidence and inquiry, We can go back millions of years and explore the history of hominids and explore the history of our species when there were other species of hominid running around like Neanderthals, up to 75,000 years ago when we started to really run around the world and populate everywhere and take over everything and so on and so forth, right up to the age of discovery, the age of, the Enlightenment, the Industrial Revolution, and blah, blah, blah. And you can say, okay, see, that all that happened and this is the result, and, blah, blah, blah. And it's all great to have all those different perspectives. And you can say, well, see, well, yeah, we have a certain nature. Human beings are going to go out and invent shit and do stuff and make things and acquire stuff and create civilizations and kingdoms and aggregate power and exercise power. And you can look at all the vocabulary. What do you mean by power? And so on and so forth. Explore everything as deeply as you wish. And you will understand that we got to where we are today in 2025 for good reasons. And every little clique on earth can rationalize and come up with arguments and good reasons for why they think the way they think and why they believe what they believe and why you should follow them or do things the way they want things to be done. And sometimes these arguments are really fallacious and stupid and idiotic and performative and theatrical, like Benito Mussolini or Adolf Hitler. But people are emotionally charged by it and follow it anyway. Why did Stalin take the advice of certain scientists, and why did certain scientists lie to Joseph Stalin about things? Well, that's an element of totalitarianism. Experts will lie to the leader because they don't want to get killed or sent to the gulag. So, you try to give, you're a general, a German general during World War II, and you're trying to give Hitler some good advice about Barbarossa or the Battle of Stalingrad or whatever. And he's just not having it. He wants to do things his way and believes for some reason or another that he can do it that way, and finds out later that it didn't work out that way. He wouldn't listen to the experts, to the advice of his generals. And that happens when people become megalomaniacs and so narcissistically trapped that they can't see the forest for the trees or understand mistakes they're making and admit it and move on. I think a good leader will say, I screwed up there. How do we fix it? Can we come up with a plan? Take a calculated risk, see if it works out, and reevaluate and move on. Update our priors, see where we're going wrong. Sometimes we get on a course and we just can't course correct. Vietnam was a slow escalation from the mid-50s, and it lasted till 1975, for God's sake. And it was a horrific disaster. There were good arguments, quote unquote, for why we needed to invade Vietnam, the domino theory and whatever, commies. But were they good arguments? And in retrospect, you can avail yourself of expert opinion, historical opinion from various perspectives, and say, those were fallacious, stupid reasons to go into Vietnam. The world wouldn't have ended, capitalism wouldn't have ended, and blah, 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 had we not invaded it. Well, today we're back in the same boat where we're talking about all these narratives about Russia's plans to invade Europe. There are no plans. There is no evidence for such plans. As there is no evidence for plans that China is going to invade Taiwan. It doesn't have to invade Taiwan. Business as usual between China and Taiwan is fine. What China is doing is reacting to the United States of America, which is what happens all the time. The United States implements a color revolution or a regime change through its dark actors, the deep state, its intelligence agencies, whatever, and countries, leaders in countries will react to it as one would, because one has one's own interests to protect and populations to defend and sovereignty and so on. So it happens. Now, who's out there? Russia may have intelligence services and may hack and may, spy and all that stuff. What else is new? Everybody does that. The U.S. has been caught spying on Germany and France, and there's a huge hatred between the French intelligence agencies and the CIA, whatever. The point is, everybody does it. And, but is Russia really in Cuba now, trying to put missiles in Cuba, as opposed to NATO trying to put missiles in Ukraine? I mean, the U.S. is crossing the mighty Pacific Ocean to encircle China. Well, this is belligerent, this is aggressive, and China will do something about it. And then it just escalates and escalates and escalates. And all of us just sit around saying, the prices at Walmart have gone up. We're not going to do anything about it. And also, we're going to be made to believe that it's absolutely necessary that Europe has to spend 5% more on, weaponization, on warfare. We need austerity. We have to tax the people. The people are in danger. No, it's not like that. The careerists and the service providers and the financiers make money on this kind of conflict. They always have, and they always will. And we're not going to do anything about it because we don't have the revolutionary spirit. I really don't think, unless machines do it, that the US or Europe has the balls anymore to fight the kind of wars that they fought in World War I and World War II. They're so brutal and devastating. And these days, it's going to be far worse because the technology has exacerbated the risk elements of it and pushed us closer to the brink of nuclear war, because at some point, one side or another will just realize they can't win, and they'll have to decide whether they want to surrender or not. And nuclear-armed powers might not want to surrender. They might think that destroying the whole world would be a better thing, right? If you talk to people like Lindsey Graham, I'm sure he'd rather see the world dead than surrendering to the Russians. I mean, and then they would all fall back on their faith in big gods and say, well, according to my preacher, this is what God wants anyway. It was prophesied, and so it's unavoidable. And by the way, I'm chosen, and I'm going to heaven anyway, so fuck all the other brutes, to hell with them. Let them all suffer and die. I think there's a lot like that involved with the carelessness and callousness of American leadership and British, Anglosphere, Western leadership in their response to what's going on in Gaza and the West Bank and the Middle East. They just don't seem to give a shit. It's like Amalek, or they're not the chosen ones, or we have to usher in the apocalypse or the end of days or the second coming or God knows. And when you read their stuff, they tell you straight out that that's what they're thinking. So there's no mystery to anything about U.S. strategies towards geopolitics. And there are lots of people commenting on it and writing about it. It's no mystery. And it's no mystery what the Chinese leadership is thinking and the Russian leadership. You could do some very good gamesmanship using game theory if you just listened to the other side a bit. But what happens is our vanity, our hubris, makes us not want to listen to the other side. We just don't want to hear it. We want to hear our own narrative, our own truth, our own desires and fantasies, and we don't want to deal with reality because it's no fun, and it doesn't feed us. It doesn't make us rich. It doesn't make us more powerful. It doesn't do anything for us. So why bother listening? And we get into quagmires and big trouble, and lots of people get hurt, and it's a horror story and whatever. We had some good years. Maybe you could say Spain had 10 good years recently because they were pretty fucked after the financial crisis, and then we all had problems during the pandemic. Yeah, we have a few good years, and then it all just seems to fall apart. But the one thing that's true, beyond a shadow of a doubt, is we are, through our economic and political beliefs, we are accelerating towards civilizational collapse. We are committing ecocide. We are going to destroy our habitat. And it's a fascinating thing. So I'm going to really quickly start my screen recording here and cover a couple of key concepts here. And I want to highlight Eric Michael's work because one thing I love about him is he has good resources, like I said earlier. And the hyperlinks in his pieces are useful. So if you're interested in delving into this subject, this domain of curiosity and interest, he's a good person to be aware of. And you can read his work and make headway very quickly, in my opinion. I didn't find him until years ago, but I could have found people like him earlier, but they just didn't have a place to put their stuff. And it was hard to find information on Blogspot and other blogging platforms back in the day. But with Substack and Medium and YouTube and all these other platforms, it becomes easier to find information like this. And then you realize there's a lot of people covering this story, this domain. And you realize there's a lot of good people involved with it. Not cranks, not weirdos, not doomers, not doomists, not conspiracy theorists, but scientists, professionals with lots and lots of experience in their domain. And you realize how interesting it is. So he likes to take pictures of the places he likes. I do that. A Boolean T on Instagram. Anyway, he's mentioned ecosystems and ecological collapse throughout many of his articles. But, what's this mean? What is ecological collapse? And he goes through this. I just want you to see that all of these are links to other articles that he's written. And if it's not, he will state it in the piece, and you'll have an external link to something else that describes it. So in the wiki article, one can notice many terms I use frequently here. One term I don't often use is extinction debt. This is an interesting concept, extinction debt. So in ecology, extinction debt is the future extinction of species due to events in the past. So things that happened in the past, the species is still there, but make it highly likely that in the near future they will disappear. So again, in ecology, extinction debt is the future extinction of species due to events in the past. The phrases dead clade walking and survival without recovery express the same idea. Extinction debt occurs because of time delays between impacts on a species, such as destruction of habitat, and the species' ultimate disappearance. For example, long-lived trees may survive for many years even after reproduction of new trees has become impossible. So you still have the trees, but there aren't going to be any new trees. So one of the things is through our chemical and plastic and all kinds of our industrial activities, we're destroying our ability to procreate. Fertility rates are going down. And it's not going to go up magically. And there's not going to be some technological fix for it, or medical fix, miracle that just comes and happens all of a sudden. So you want to believe that, I know, but it's not going to happen. Anyway, so pollution may also cause extinction debt by reducing a species' birth rate or increasing its death rate so that its population slowly declines. Extinction debts may also be caused by invasive species or by climate change, or if you're a culture, an ethnic group or a nation, it can happen through ethnic cleansing, forced starvation, genocide, basically. That's a different story, but anyway. So these things are all operative right now in our world. Then he links to this one by Sharma, this article, and she does a good job of talking about what societal collapse is. Our egoic consciousness has made us fundamentally incompatible with the Earth's biosphere. I like that. It sounds really to the point. Our egoic consciousness has made us fundamentally incompatible with the Earth's biosphere. So we just don't get how we fit in with the Earth anymore. You know, with the ecosystem, we don't get the part and parcel side of things, that without all of these living systems, we can't exist, period. And the fact that we evolved from living systems. We weren't created 6,000 years ago. There's no evidence for it other than people quoting stories or myths. You know, you can talk about turtles, you can talk about whatever. But the point is, through our scientific curiosity, you know, we have learned to understand where we came from. And you want to believe the story, which is nice, and you can stick to that if you want to. But the fact is, there's a reason why our anatomy is similar to other mammals, right? I mean, God could have created any kind of creature he wanted to. I won't go into that today, but I've been writing a lot on that because of my other story that I'm doing. But anyhow, so then he goes on to, in a similar fashion, Tad Patzek shares an experience of his at a workshop in an article from 2.5 years ago. So he Life Itself blog here. So in this blog, I continue to write about the environment, ecology, energy, complexity, and humans. Of particular interest to me are human self-delusions and mad stampedes to nowhere. I could have written that because that freaks me out. That's what I'm really obsessed with, is why we just can't seem to figure out what the heck we're doing and why we're doing it. It's so bizarre that all these people put on the black shirts, and then they're so upset when it turns out Mussolini wasn't all that. You know, it's so weird. And then the fact that we're doing it again is just mind-boggling. In 2025, we haven't wised up. So, Confessions of a Petroleum Engineer and Ecologist. So, anyway, he links to it, and that's a Blogspot thing, so that goes way back, and or maybe not. But anyway, he in Eric's piece, he introduces the guy, uses his name, links to his place. A lot of people want to make you believe that they're the expert, they're the cornerstone, Come to me and you'll learn everything you need to know about this complex thing. Why? Because I need the attention. I need the money. I need the subscribers. I need the clicks. Blah, blah, blah. I need the audience capture. I need to have you commenting on how great I am. Please do comment in this video about how great I am. At least about my t-shirt, because it's cool. Just comment on how cool my t-shirt is. Anyway, people need the attention. They're vain. And so they want you to believe that. But Eric's not so vain. He'll say, I got this from this place. And he'll also very easily, despite the fact that he's written all these other articles, you can see the links going down through his piece. These are all his. If he doesn't say somebody wrote something, this is the link. These are all links to his articles from Problems, Predicaments, and Technology, of which he has written prolifically over the years. What would it take for humanity to experience radical transformation? This thing I'm always thinking about, so I'm not the only one. People who read and are curious about a lot of things tend to have these questions. He's not the only guy, Eric. I'm just like Eric, right? And he would be the first to say, yeah, I'm not that much different from you. We look at the same things. So what is ecological overshoot? He has an article here. It's really good. And of course, look, all the links. And it's like a library. It's like its own LLM. But this guy's done a lot of work, and I always want to praise him because that's a lot of work, and I thank him for it. Thank you very much, Eric. You're a wonderful man. But anyhow, so anyway, he goes through all this, and I'm not going to read the whole article. I want you to do that. But he's just trying to get a lock on what is this thing, ecological collapse. Why is that a thing? And by the way, when these ecosystems, when ecology collapses, it takes us out. It's not going to matter if there's a robot running around. The idea that they're going to have an unlimited source of energy and repair themselves, you need materials. You got to take stuff out of the Earth's crust to do all this stuff, and you need diesel fuel to do that, and coal. Who produces the most coal year on year? China does. So America can just forget about getting back its power that it had for a brief moment after World War II. It's not going to happen. And they know it unless they take over Russia and China and control them. How do they do that? How do you go to a country with a history like China and say, you're going to be like us now. We're going to tell you how to live. Colonialism, imperialism, again. They're going to say, fuck you, no thank you, we're doing quite fine, thank you, right now. We'll have to figure this stuff out ourselves, and if you want to collaborate with us, that's fine. But if you want to take us out, you're in trouble. So they can't win, period. So this whole BRICS thing and this whole multipolar world thing is a thing. The West, the global North, has run out of gas. Literally, it's running out. When America had all that low-hanging fruit of oil and gas, it was much more powerful. But the greed in America financialized everything. You have these CEOs that say, well, let's financialize GE, General Electric. Let's finance Enron, all these things. And let's just outsource all of our production to China and offshore it all because it's cheaper. Arbitrage plays. I've said it a million times. People just don't understand it. And when Europe kowtows to America, it just tells you that the whole project, European colonialism and imperialism, has had its day. It's gone. It's finished. It's not coming back again. So we can be proud to be of Northern European stock with my American background and so on, and Irish. and all that. There's nothing wrong with that. But the idea that we're going to be running around the Congo chopping off people's arms so we can take their shit is gone. We don't have the kind of slavery that we had. Pick an empire, pick a time in history anymore. We don't think that that's cool for now, but it may come back after billions of us die. We may start believing that the best labor-saving device in our world is a slave. But I doubt that. I think this time we've pushed everything too far and we're not going to bounce back from it. But whatever. We're going to be around for a while. And I do encourage people to do what they want to do. I mean, if you want to start a new shoes company that makes sneakers or trainers or whatever you call them, tennis shoes, go ahead. Beat out Nike somehow. You have some innovation or whatever in your business or materials. Go for it. Do it. If you want to make the next platform that's going to make Facebook obsolete, go ahead. Try. But don't forget to study a little bit about monopoly capitalism and how it works, and gauge the probabilities of your success. So anyway, he goes on to this Tristan Sykes article. He explains that AI or not AI, this is the question. And then he quotes from the article what's the most poignant bit of the article. And I read the whole article. And what he quotes is important. So he's read the whole thing too. And he's picked out the bit that, in my opinion as well, is the crux of the biscuit. So he says, okay, ignoring AI. Let's imagine that we've created limitless emissions-free energy out of thin air. It's the new kind of magic. Newton is trying to be an alchemist, Isaac Newton, and whatever. And it works somehow. Or you manifest it through The Secret. We've organized our entire civilization around restoring ecological balance. Hey, China, Russia, hey, India, hey, African countries, South American countries. I'm Uncle Sam. Let's get together and reorganize everything about restoring ecological balance. In my story, that happens, but for a different weird reason, and it's sci-fi. And we've managed to remove forever chemicals. We've just gotten rid of it. We found this way to osmosis, this way to take it out, leaching. We've taken out the forever chemicals. They had that, a colloidal blah, blah, mineral blah, blah, blah thing. You go into the alternative medicine hospital and colloidal minerals and all the toxins go out. As if our immune system isn't already brilliant at doing what it does. If we just sleep and eat well and exercise, just do the basic stuff that humans should be doing, like walking around a lot rather than sitting on our asses all day. Sorry. I go off on tangents. Microplastics and novel entities from our water, out, land bodies, atmosphere, and everything humans now consume, wear, etc., is all made from vat-grown protein. We don't need, fiber from nature. We can just grow it in a lab. We're eating lab-grown meat. We're wearing lab-grown clothing. Problem solved. Or he says, question, problem solved? Well, not really, not unless you've got some interdimensional space alien techno magic. And so this is all magical thinking, and I can't emphasize that enough. We love magical thinking. It makes us feel better, and feeling better is good for our vanity. So no, unfortunately, the laws of thermodynamics still apply, and one in particular, entropy. So, I talk about entropy all the time, and I have for years. I was talking about that in the 80s. I didn't know as much about it then, and I still don't know much about it, to be honest. But it just made sense to me, the laws of thermodynamics and so on. And I'm curious about it. It makes sense to look into the science a bit, even though I'm not a physicist or whatever. You still can do that. You don't have to memorize the periodic table to be interested in chemistry and understand it's an important thing. So the nature of entropy, and then he has a link to entropy. So you can go to the Wikipedia. If you don't know what entropy is, you can look it up here. Is that and I like these authors because they do that, right? So if there's a question mark, you can go and look at it. Curious people want to know. Is that when anything changes, transforms, regenerates, it does so with power gained by converting a higher grade of energy into a lower grade of energy and generating waste in the process. This happens across the universe at atomic and chemical scales and happens within all living beings, flora and fauna. In the process of change, some part of the energy used is radiated as heat, and the transformed material, living or dead, also generates waste. Waste heat and pollution is fine and dandy within limits. But as with all toxins, it's the ratio of the mix that is critical. So I always say, I got this way back when from somewhere, little bird told me, the dose makes the poison. I used to follow some of these science-based medicine bloggers and so on, and infectious disease people and whatnot. And, it's the dose that makes the poison. Everything's toxic if you get the ratio, the mix wrong. So hypothetically, if we were to somehow find the global political will and undertake a really serious planetary scale transformation to restore unpolluted, biodiverse ecological systems and a stable climate, how much energy would that really take? So in my story, it's all about time, because you can't just do this. And he covers this in this article. But you don't have enough energy and materials to make this happen by 2050. It just won't. But in a million years, things could bounce back, and we'd still have time before the supernova. But what do? Freeze embryos? How do you keep people around? Do you really need people? Really? I mean, extinction is the rule. If we disappear, does it really matter? Well, it does if you want to have a stock play or a Ponzi scheme, because you want to convince people that the universe needs human beings, and it needs them everywhere, and needs them making Dyson spheres out of black holes and galaxies so that they can go out and do whatever the fuck they want to do. Make cheese or paper clips, whatever. It's silly. It's hubristic human supremacy. It's kind of dumb, but it's good for making money. Because if you can convince people that the Hyperloop works and it makes a difference, it's better than a road or a train, then you can make money. And so these fantasies are very lucrative, and they're exciting for people. People want to believe that some smartass came up with the solution and that they're going to invest in the solution, and that's going to make them really cool. Vanity. It's all vanity. So anyway, heat waste, blah, blah, planetary scale transformation will restore, blah, blah, blah. How much energy would that take? And how much waste would it produce? The short answer is a lot. In effect, the transformation and regeneration of the global human enterprise is a hypergrowth of material and ecological extraction, pollution, and energy use, as our efforts to make green and electrify everything are already demonstrating. Lastly, it's worth pointing out that the energy we are laughingly attempting to produce to decarbonize global industrial civilization is all made with the power of fossil fuels. diesel mining and coal smelting. The green transition is a sham. So, you need the coking coal to make the steel, to make all the buildings. I mean, you got a concrete. And we have to grow because, idiots at the New York Times say we have to. And you have to have this high tech, everybody's rich kind of, everyone around the whole world can have a lifestyle of the rich and famous because of ephemeralization and because of technology. You'll see. It'll happen. But it won't happen. Uh, Not at this scale. If, let's say, maybe if we had 1.5 million people on the planet and technology, and we were self-limiting our population. So nature wasn't doing it through R and K species strategies and evolution, blah, blah, blah. It's just doing it because we say, we're going to maintain this number of people on the planet, period, full stop. Nobody skates. Anyone who doesn't want to do it this way gets culled, taken out. And so we're all rich people now. We're all trillionaires. Everybody gets a continent, whatever. How many acres could 1.5 million people have? What kind of parties could we have? Whatever. That's not going to happen. We're all going to die. And I think over the next 30 years, the population of the earth is going to go down. Yeah, the population is going to diminish. It's not going to be fun. It's not going to be planned. It's not going to be comfortable. It's going to be painful. Starvation is hell. You can look at Gaza if you don't believe me. But that's going to happen. But what are we going to do with that information? We're all starving to death because of this, that, and the other thing. What are we going to do with that? I don't know. Will anybody do anything with it? The wealthy, powerful Anglo financiers are just going to get a place in Tasmania or New Zealandia or whatever, and they're going to have a really nice time, shuffling deck chairs and dancing to the music and drinking fine wines until they can't anymore. And why would they care? I mean, the King of Spain, Juan Carlos, he's going to die of something or another. We all die. But in the meantime, he had a lot of girlfriends and he lived quite an amazing life. He did a lot of good things. I'm not saying he didn't. But power corrupts, wealth corrupts, and people just go away. So Elon's not going to live forever, ever. None of these people are. They're going to have their moment in the sun. And for a lot of people, that's all that matters. It's vanity. I just want to be cool, rich, and powerful, and in control. And that's it. And so they're going to do it that way. And bully for them. What are you going to do about it? Well, we're not going to do anything. We don't have the balls to be revolutionaries. We're not going to put our life on the line for other people. Some people do. They go and they try to help. And most of us just march. We go on parades. We parade around together. And we say, see, I understand this is wrong. And it's great, but it doesn't take power away from the people who are causing the problem. It doesn't change the structures of the institutions. And it doesn't change the system and blah, blah, blah. It doesn't recode the capital. It just says, I know. And that's what we're all doing. There's this huge supply of people talking and writing and making videos just like me. And nobody's doing shit. It's the attention economy, and we're trying to get attention and make a couple bucks a month. People are buying us coffees, and it's all cool. And at the end, and we're just kind of commenting on the shit show. Scott Ritter or somebody knows the truth about how this thing's going to play out. We watch the video. Oh, now I know. So what? Does it change a thing? Did one Ukrainian soldier, did it save one Ukrainian soldier's life, one Russian soldier's life, one innocent victim's life? No. The thing grinds on because it's profitable to certain people for the thing to grind on. And if it wasn't profitable, if war wasn't profitable, we'd be a very peaceful world. But the way things are structured and set up now, the military industrial complex is indeed a profit making institution of institutions, mega institution, uh, conglomerate of nodes of networks of institutions, billions and billions. And they make a shitload of money. And if you're invested in it, if you own the right stocks, you're laughing. So he said so another one, he talks about this Steve Bull, who's also a good guy to follow, and he has his own thing, which is this old Uval, which is another website resource, infinite growth, finite growth. These are great. He has these PDFs you can, it bears repeating, best of volume 2. Click here, and he has a foreword by Eric Michaels, afterword by Guy McPherson, Dr. Peter Victor, George, I'm not going to say that name, Charles Hughes Smith, Jordan Perry, Justin McAfee, all these guys, Hugo Bardi, Steve Bull, Honest Sorcerer. So that's a group of bloggers in this space. But he also has these PDFs that are all with like Vaclav Smil and Reese and all these other people who were professionals and scientists and so on. And all of these writers refer to all this stuff. So that's a good resource. So he refers to that article. And Steve, just like I do sometimes, have a conversation with the AIs. And you put in detailed prompts and it gives you back some info and you read through it and you say, well, I don't agree with that. I think we can do better because of this, that, and the other reason. What about this? What about that? And put some more names and references in there and so on. And then the LLM librarian will come back with a more refined response, and you can whittle it down. It can be a bit of like, you can really generate a lot of confirmation bias doing it. You have to be a critical thinker so that you know you're not fooling yourself by trying to get the LLM librarian to feed back to you exactly what you want to hear. That's one of the dangers of the thing. But it's a good process. It can be helpful for projects you might be doing. So he says here, I increasingly believe that humans have next to no agency in the processes involved here and tend to advocate that we should place most of our resources and energy into attempting to make our local communities as self-sufficient and resilient as possible, especially in terms of food production, potable water procurement, and regional shelter needs, and then cross our fingers. And then DeepSeek comes back with a whole bunch of more information based on that prompt. And it's really good stuff, actually. Very, very enlightening. But anyhow, that's another problem I have is like we tend to, now we say, well, there's nothing we can do about it. So let's just be a resilient community and let the shit show play out and so on. So again, we just don't have the right stuff to fight the powers that be, to fight business as usual. We owe too much of our comforts to it, to those systems and to our situation. So we're not going to give up anything. It's just no fun to think about that. I want to go on the Saturday cruise and I want to, hang out with people and talk about, products I'm selling and whatnot. And I want to post photos of myself in Prague, walking the streets. And I want to be cool, Vanity. And I want to be loved and respected, paid attention to. And I want to have lots of nice things and comforts. And so I'm not going to go there. I'm not going to do anything. But what I could do is like volunteer at a food bank or talk to my neighbors about, farming co-ops or buying some extra land parcels, put some orchards in that we can share or whatever. Or interfacing with the local co-ops, farming co-ops. And there's so many things one can do, right? Health, right? Learn the language and be healthy. What can we do together to be more healthy? So join the Tai Chi group or the bodybuilding group or the cycling group, whatever. All these things are good because you can't do anything if you're sick and tired and ignorant. So all that's good, and it is good. But let's not expect that we're going to take on the powers that be. We're just not. Nobody is. Your kids aren't. No one in the global north is. The only people that fight are in the global south, and they do because they have no choice other than to fight. And they get crushed. And we've seen that over decades and decades in Central America, South America, all around the world. The West will generally crush you if they don't get what they want. And it's really hard to fight. And all of these civil wars are ginned up by Western powers. And you can see the tentacles of the global north in the conflict that just occurred between Cambodia and Thailand. You can learn all about that if you want to, or not. You can just say it's Thai's fault or the Cambodians' fault or this or that. That's fine. But in fact, the machinations of the global empire is always at work, always, and has to a certain degree influence over anything that's happening in the world today. So he goes on and references a bunch more of his work. Ecosystems are more than the sum of their parts, more than a piece of habitat and its resident species. As biodiversity loss and species extinction spread, the loss of connectivity could mean that ecosystems may collapse faster than has previously been predicted. And there's been a lot of articles and academic research and articles published recently about this. It happens fast. At some point, these feedbacks, positive feedbacks, just push things really quick. And things start to fall apart and keystone species disappear. Whales are having a hard time because of algae blooms, and they're not talking as much anymore. And you're finding species in places, flora and fauna in places that they shouldn't be in, or they haven't been in our recorded history. And it's all very weird. Again, the maximum power principle, he mentions this, and he does a really good article about that. Far better, it seems to me, in our vulnerability is to look death in the eye and to be grateful every day for the brief but magnificent opportunity that life provides. And this is another attitude, right? You're just like, well, I'm just thankful I got to do this. Why worry about everything? Acquaintance might ask me, well, what do we do about everything? I might say, enjoy your life, because I'm not going to go into all the complexity of all this stuff. And the person doesn't want to hear it anyway. He just wants to be happy and get attention and feel good about himself. And why not, right? It's all good. So I think we should all become revolutionaries. Go to the Spanish Civil War, risk our lives. See, not everyone has the courage and conviction of a Simone Weil, for example. Go through this with me a bit and smile and think about it, and maybe go in and explore some of these links and whatnot. It's extremely good. Like, this is an example of what I was saying. This is the first time a fur seal has been found so far inland in this part of Argentina, and it's raising some serious questions. These types of changes don't just affect animals. When ecosystems start falling apart, it can lead to food shortages and more extreme weather, which are problems that hit closer to home for all of us. Look at the extreme weather in the United States today. It's a horror story. So I'm going to stop that there. Um, these things are happening. It's easy to notice them if you want to take a look. If you want to engage with reality, it's not hard. It's fun, it's exciting, it's interesting. It can, add to your self esteem, make you feel smarter, better, stronger, more aware. You can compete with other people in the blogosphere about how much you know. But in general, this particular community is very helpful to one another. It's an uncomfortable subject to delve into. It's not very popular. You'll find a bigger Reddit group for professional wrestling, for example, or you know football, something like that, than for any of these things. But if you're interested, this is a community of people that you can follow. So I'd recommend going to this particular article of Eric Michaels called "What is Ecological Collapse?" and look at the hyperlinks and familiarize yourself with the topic if you haven't already done that. Enjoy. I mean, have fun with it. It's not going to ruin your life. You don't have to get depressed, but of course, if you are vulnerable to depression and all that kind of thing, you have to have discretion and be careful. I don't want I don't want to be a bummer. I don't want to bring people down. I want them to enjoy this topic so that they can understand what's going on and pay attention to things that really matter as opposed to all the BS that the powers that be, that business as usual wants us to pay attention to. That's only making the predicament worse, accelerating the most horrific and negative aspects of our predicament so that they happen quicker and more violently, more destructively, more painfully. And all I really would hope for is that we slow down. But of course, if you've got to make money with every breath you take, then you can't slow down. You got to go out and kick ass and take names and do shit. Accelerationism comes in all kinds of forms, not just in the real tech space. And in the religious space, there's a lot of desire to accelerate the end of the world because that means the chosen ones are going to go to heaven sooner and whatnot. But there's all kinds of that, and I just hope we can slow down and talk to each other and say, hey, let's do things differently, and let's not support these goofballs. That means not reading Ezra Klein in the New York Times for good reasons and being able to explain he's not a bad guy, but being able to explain to somebody why you don't think his perspective is helpful today and why maybe Sam Harris, sorry, I just saw a Sam Shepard movie and I knew him, so it's in my head. Sam Harris or some other pop intellectual influencer, maybe it's no longer of interest to pay attention to him, and maybe it's time to move on to something else. I always move on, can't help it. After a while, the usefulness of that particular voice wears out, or I find that there are certain prejudices or things that individual is stuck on, a certain kind of victimhood, and it gets boring after a while, and I just say, enough is enough, and read a different book and move on. But yeah, if we could get together and figure out how to slow down and kind of divest and boycott all of this stuff, I think it would be helpful. And if you did reach a critical mass, and I don't know what that is, around the world of this kind of boycott and divest in this bullshit, it might have some effect, maybe, to help us figure out how to slow things down or take power away from these people. They're vain. They are narcissistic. They are dark tetrad people running the show. And they want your attention. That's what they want. They want to feel like a big shot. And they want to think that they're important. The best thing you can do is not pay any attention to them. You need to know what they're doing, and you need to know how to fight against it. But don't pay attention to them. It's kind of like not putting the serial killer's name up in the news to celebrate him. You talk about the victims. You talk about what we can do to prevent, people with mental illness becoming killers or whatever. Slow things down and figure out a way of life, a culture that is better for you and your people, and on many levels, within many metrics. It's demonstrably better, and you can explain it, not just rationalize it, not just come up with good reasons and arguments for why you're doing something, like, I've got to invade because, Russia's bad. We got to get nukes. Ukraine has to join NATO. Everybody has to join NATO. Until Russia has a Disneyland in Moscow and lets Anglo finance run its country, it's an enemy. We have to bleed it out. We have to cause it consternation. We have to threaten it. And they might fight back, which is evil, terribly evil. They would do something about that. So, climate change. Let's just make it impossible for China not to spend a great deal of its coal making steel for warships and airplanes and drones and whatever infrastructure it needs to fight Uncle Sam. Let's make it impossible for them not to invest that way, as opposed to saying, gee, hey, China, how could we collaborate together to kind of slow things down so that we might have a little bit more time to figure things out? And there are a lot of people in this space that say it's too late, so don't try anything. But people do stuff. Economists want to figure out a better economic system, and people who are interested in political philosophy want to figure out that. And people want to do things. They want to invent a solution to a problem and sell it, make a living. You can't stop people from doing stuff. So it'd be nice if they were doing things that were a little bit more positive, a little bit less violent, a little bit less destructive, a little bit less genocidal and ecocidal, right? So let's all slow down, take a breath, learn about what's really going on, stop paying attention to these vampires, and maybe we can figure out how to be better folks. And still, with our egos intact, feeling smart and beautiful and well-loved and paid attention to and supported and all that kind of stuff. And maybe we can give our support and love and respect and attention to people who need it. If they need it, they need it. Pat them on the back. Tell them how good they look. Tell them how smart they are. It doesn't take anything away from you. But if they're a vain, dark tetrad asshole, don't pay any attention to them. Don't give them anything. Let them just disappear into obscurity. And that's the worst punishment you could give anyone like Donald Trump. And people make a living just talking about him day in and day out, and he loves that. He loves it so much. But it's so easy, right? We all want to talk about how bad Trump is or whatever. If you're a MAGA person, you want to talk about how terrible a Democrat is. They're all pretty nasty, to be honest, but never mind. I'm going to stop now. Thanks a lot for listening. You can share this if you want. You can like it if you want. You can comment. You can tell me anything you want if you want. I wish you would, but whatever. I'm asking too much perhaps. But anyhow, take good care. Have a nice rest of the week. And be very careful with the heat. in these places around the world that are experiencing wet bulb temperatures. It's extremely dangerous, and you never know. You think you're invulnerable, you think you know what you're doing, but remind yourself what you need to do to protect yourself in extreme heat. Okay? Take good care. Bulliam T. Out.